Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever the fuck you're tuning in. This is another mid-season episode of Backyard Buckets, brought to you by Backyard Sports. I'm glad to be back with you guys. Bentley, how are you doing?
As you can see from my banner frame here, I am feeling very good these days. March is a wonderful time as the calendar rolls over. I'm not Irish, but I'm starting to feel real lucky these days watching my boys. It's great for the NBA. The race for the postseason is ramping up. Obviously, March Madness for all the college basketball fans out there. It's a good time on the calendar.
Yeah, Duke might end up with like all of the top 5 NBA draft picks next year.
No one tell the haters because they said it was over when Kay left.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody, right? Ryan, how you doing, man? Cringe Lord Omega, how are you?
Oh, thank you for my official title. I'm doing okay. Happy to be here. I don't know if I'm as bullish about Duke getting every single recruit, but I'm doing all right. Happy to be here. Happy you're back, Gary. I did not say anything disparaging about you in the previous pod, despite what might be going around on the internet. It's
Despite the rumors.
Yeah, nothing but positive vibes over here.
Oh man. Well, we're getting close to that time of year when, as Bentley said, we're ramping up for the playoffs, but we're also ramping up for regular season awards. We covered these about a month, maybe 5 weeks ago. We kind of had our predictions for midseason. We felt like it was a pretty good time to kind of update. So, most improved, it seems like it's kind of maxing a landslide. His odds are considerably, I think he's like 1,000 better than the next closest in terms of odds juice for you degenerate gamblers out there. And then defensive player of the year, not much has changed there. Curious if you guys have any thoughts in terms of like, should Wemby be in the conversation? Bentley, let's go your way first on whether or not you think Wemby should be in the conversation for TPOY, because Rudy is also a heavy favorite when it comes to betting odds. It's like 1,500 in terms of the separation for him.
Yeah. I don't want to blow my wad on our segment later coming up in the show, but Rudy Gobert did not give up 45 points to Operin Şengün. So to give a rookie defensive player of the year, if you want to talk about it, sure, that's fine. I'll have the conversation with you. I think Ryan threw out some stat about them being like 30 points, whatever, 30 net rating points or whatever worse on defense when Wemby is off the court as opposed to when he's on the court. So I'm fine having the conversation. He will certainly be in the conversation probably henceforth going forward for the rest of his career. But I think we all kind of know who the defensive player of the year is this season.
Yeah, when you're averaging 3.5 blocks, I guess your prospects look pretty good for the future. Ryan, any consideration for Wemby as DPOY?
Yeah, I think he should be considered when you lead the league in blocks, though that's not the only thing that matters. The big thing that Bentley was so eloquently trying to say was that they go, I believe, from 27th in defensive rating to when he's off the court to 3rd when he's on the court, which is a huge jump. Actually, I think they're last to 3rd, I think is actually what it is. I think it's an even bigger jump, which is
27
crazy.
spots, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's a massive jump. I think that could be indicative of a lot of things. It's not the only thing that matters, but it clearly shows some defensive capability, I think, from him. It could also just be an indictment on Zach Collins defensively. Yeah, I mean, you have to consider him, like I said, lead the league in blocks. Some of the metrics look pretty good. Obviously, there's still some guys who are moving him around, in the paint and things like that. I think Gobert is the clear favorite, but Wemby should probably be in like the top 5, I think, consideration.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I wonder too, with kind of rotation, how much is Pop trying to keep lineups consistent, right? Are they wholesale subbing more often when Wemby comes off the floor versus other teams that have a bit more of kind of a onesie twosie rotation, trying to manage minutes for individual players. I know building a dynasty, Pop knows how to do that. So if he's considering, chemistry and whatnot, and they're not trying to win, it could be some of that as well. I know that metric is probably not easily accessible, but I'd be curious how much that has to do with the defensive efficiency number, because that is a huge change for just one guy. But when you lead the league in blocks, maybe that is enough. Plus, he's averaging about a steal and a half a game too, so he's filling up the defensive statistics for sure. Dad, appreciate you joining us. So
Thanks,
let's move to maybe a little more kind of consideration, right at the midway point of the season. Rookie of the year, we were a little bit split, and I think we thought it was a very tight race between Chet and Wemby. As we stand right now, Vic is basically a landslide favorite. I think the closest book that I have found in terms of the spread is about 700 in terms of odds shift. There are some that are like 8,000. There's some that say Wemby's already got it because it's like minus 10,000. So you got to bet a ton of money to win pennies. But I think that speaks to kind of what Wemby is right now versus kind of what we've seen from Chet cooling off a little bit. Ryan, let's go to you first. Wemby, head and shoulders. Do you think there's still a chance that Chet can get back in this thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously injuries.
Sure.
Wemby's got a shoulder problem right now. It could just be a little bit of a flash from Wemby over the last couple weeks, though he's had some pretty big flashes. The hard part for Chet is he's not going to dominate the ball, right? So Wemby's going to get the numbers that you need to probably win it, just because he's going to have the ball a lot more. And the defensive numbers look really good. Chet's does too, but Wemby's look even better. It's going to be really tough, but injuries or just like a little bit of a slump, could cause it to get back to kind of a two-horse race. But the narrative is going to be tough to get past. I think that's going to be the ultimate problem for him to get past is, maybe the LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony type narrative. I know you love that. There was no way LeBron was going to win or was going to lose in a close race. I don't think Wemby will lose in a close race. I think Chet would need to do quite a bit to pass him just because of the narrative.
Yeah. I always tell people like LeBron James won Rookie of the Year when he was at St. Vincent St. Mary's, right? Like that was a done deal. And it feels that way with Wemby as well. Chet would have had to be, in my opinion, I agree with you. I think Chet would have had to been kind of head and shoulders above Wemby to win it. But you also make a really good point, right? He plays alongside, we're going to talk about MVP in just a moment, but he plays alongside like a top 3, 2 or 3, maybe 4 if you really want to stretch it, MVP candidate in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So that's also tough when you're not the focal point and the other guy is, right? The whole Spurs dynasty, the next dynasty, right? If Pop's going to rebuild this into another dynasty, revolves around Victor Wembanyama. So they're going to absolutely give him every opportunity to either succeed or fail. They're going to figure it out. Bentley, what do you think? Chet, I mean, barring injury, of course. Ryan, he talked about the shoulder thing, and if that prolongs or if it gets worse or anything along those lines, obviously that's a factor, right? But do you see Chet maybe getting back in this thing?
No. And that's not to say that he's not deserving of having his name mentioned in as being a finalist for the award. I think he solidly second place, right? He just so happened to miss his true rookie year. He came in at a time where there's a 7'4" alien playing basketball who's doing incredible things on both ends of the court. Like it's just bad timing, man. Like, Chet, you're phenomenal. You're going to do great things in the NBA so long as you're healthy. But, like, tough that your entire career is going to be stacked up against Vic. That kind of sucks.
It doesn't help that they're basically the same person in a lot of ways, too, right? Like,
yeah,
long, spindly, can do a lot of different things. Vic is just, as you put it, an alien, right?
Yeah.
Like, guys that big aren't usually hitting their heads on the rafters, right? They're usually like just back to the basket, being big and just being good at being big. But he's very different, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's shift over to MVP because we've had a pretty drastic shift here. Rookie of the year, we had a bit of a debate going at the midway point between Chet and Wemby. Chet had done things, and Wemby looked like he may have maybe still kind of figuring it out. He's kind of taken over there. But MVP, it felt like at the halfway point that Embiid might go back to back, right? Because he was on a pretty historic trajectory in terms of he was leading the league in scoring. He was doing things that we're checking boxes in like the annals of NBA history. And then he goes down with the injury. And Bentley, I know you and I think it was a week that Ryan missed. We talked about, the shift with the NBA in terms of putting all the emphasis on play time for postseason awards and whatnot. And was that the reason Embiid tried to maybe play through a nick or come back too soon? We heard from Halliburton as well, right? He flat out said, like, if this wasn't a thing, I probably would have sat another week to make sure that I was absolutely 100%. So maybe we saw that with Embiid, and then he goes down with the injury, and we may not see him again this season, right? At first, we weren't sure. It was kind of that indefinitely, we'll reevaluate, but now it's getting closer and closer to like maybe if they make a postseason run, maybe he'll be ready, but most likely we're probably not going to see him again until the 24-25 season. So, as it stands right now, Nikola Jokic is the favorite. It's not a runaway like we have with, a few of the other awards, but he's at on average about minus 150, minus 160, and then right now the second best odds, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who we talked about just a moment ago with, his impact on Chet's Rookie of the Year campaign. He sits a little over plus 200, around 225, 240 at most books. Followed by Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jason Tatum to round out the current top five in terms of odds at the sports books. So, Bentley, we'll go your way first. Is this Jokic's award to lose, or do you have somebody that you think is going to maybe come from behind here and win the MVP as we close in on the end of the season?
So I've kind of two trains of thought here, right? Inside of me are two wolves, and they're fighting, and I don't know who's going to win. But
excellent reference.
Yeah. So I tend to think about the MVP award a little bit differently than do the voters. I've noticed in the sports books, right? Because the books are trying to predict what the voters are doing, right? So that tends to reflect the odds tend to reflect what the voters are going to do. My opinion on the MVP award, and I have the same philosophy for the NFL, right? The NFL, it's become quarterback on the highest team or like the best team, whatever, right? Got it. The definition of the award is the most valuable player to a team, right? So that does allow for some sort of team success to be brought into factor. It doesn't always go that way in the NBA, right? We give it to the guy who had the best season. We gave it to Russell Westbrook when he had the triple-double season, right?
Sometimes it's a guy's turn.
Yeah, like Embiid. Let me rephrase that. Embiid was deserving of winning because he was the most valuable player on that team. But it was also his turn, right? Like that's just kind of how it goes. I think that the most valuable player to any one specific team in the NBA that is qualifying of winning this award, because again, team success should have something to do with it, is Nikola Jokic. I think he is the most valuable player on any team in the NBA because he does the most amount of things for that team. The debate around Jokic used to be, is he good enough defensively to be the number one guy on a championship winning team? He proved that. He is that guy. He does enough defensively. He's an above average defender for the position. He protects enough of the court. A guy that I like and I could see winning the award, and it would not shock me if he does win the award, is SGA. Oklahoma City currently is 2 in the West. We'll talk about Cat here in a little bit. That changes things a little bit in the landscape of the West. If Oklahoma City goes on and wins the West regular season, he's the best player on a team that won the West, which is the best conference, the most tightly contested. I could see them giving it to Shai, right? He's a new face. We've kind of had a run of the big men. It's been a while since a guard won the MVP. It would not shock me if SGA pulls out like the late victory if they win the 1 seed in the West and they have, the home home court advantage all the way through the playoffs. I still think it's Nikola Jokic's award to lose. I still think he's the most valuable player on any team, but SGA is one that I would not be shocked by coming from behind to win the award. I do, at the end of this, I do have a dark horse that was not mentioned on your list that I don't think would win, but I think deserves to be in the conversation.
Okay, we'll go to Ryan, then we'll come back to your dark horse. Come at you like a dark horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ryan, what do you think? MVP, anybody but Jokic gonna come and win this thing?
Yeah, I think it's SGA is the obvious competitor there. Just like Bentley said, I do think if they finish first in the West, he has a pretty good chance of winning it. I think Jokic is currently the better player, but that's not what we're talking about. SGA is arguably been the best player this year. I think he very easily could pass. I think team record matters, like Bentley said. I don't fundamentally disagree with anything he said. I think there's some other dark horses. Giannis, I think, could sneak in there potentially. With a little surge at the end, or some other guys. Donovan Mitchell looked like he might be pushing at some point, but then he got hurt. So again, like anything, if you can stay healthy, if Jokic goes down for a week or two, then obviously that switches thing. But I think Jokic is a clear favorite. But personally, I would vote SGA right now. Is how I would vote it if I.
You would vote him right now.
Yeah, I think Jokic will likely win, but I would vote SGA. I think my banners. Yeah, I think SGA has meant more to the organization of Oklahoma City, the Thunder organization, than Jokic has. Though I think it's very close because the Nuggets would not be good without Jokic. But I think the Oklahoma City would be pretty rough shape without Shea, probably significantly more than Denver would be without Jokic. That's my personal opinion. I think because of how young Oklahoma City is, to drag, I'm going to say, they're not bad, but to drag them into the situation that they are in as the leader of that team at the age that they are is really, really impressive to me. They're by far the youngest competitor by a long shot, and he is by far the best player. So that's my personal opinion. Maybe that's narrative based, but that's how I feel about it.
So just for clarification's sake here, so you think taking Shea off of Oklahoma City and taking Jokic off of Denver's carcass that's left is better than the Oklahoma City carcass that's left?
Yeah, I mean, they're both not very good, in my opinion. They both would lose a lot, obviously. But I think losing Shea is a bigger loss. I think both of them do very similar things, right? They organize the offense. Shea is a better defender, which I think is a big deal with how Oklahoma City plays. I think he's the perfect fit over there. And I think with how young they are, they really need someone who has some experience. He's young too, but they need someone who has some experience to organize them on both sides of the ball, to be the leader on the floor. I think Jamal Murray would be fine, without Jokic. He would be a fringe all-star player, right? Is there a guy on Oklahoma City that's a fringe all-star player, like Chet maybe? If he was able to get the ball a little bit more, there's an argument to be made based off his metrics. Jalen Williams maybe, if he becomes the ball handler there, because the wing ball handler, point forward type player, there's an argument. But I have no way to confirm that. I only see them in flashes in much smaller sample sizes, where I've seen Jamal Murray in a larger sample size as a better player. So I think Jamal Murray is the third best player of those teams, right? It's Jokic, SGA, then Jamal Murray, right? That's kind of my point. It's I think Jamal Murray could drag a team into the play-in, that team potentially. Whereas I think Oklahoma City.
Do you think Oklahoma City falls out of the playoff picture completely without SGA?
I think there's a good chance. Yeah, I think so.
Bentley, I want to get your thoughts on this, because I've seen some facial expressions over there, and I'm taken a little aback because I didn't have a chance to prep for that statement from Ryan, but I'm curious your thoughts on it, because I'm not sure I agree with that take because I just think Oklahoma City's roster is a little deeper. I think they've got a little more talent kind of spread out. I, I think they kind of float a little. I think Denver is so reliant upon Jokic, but I want to go your way. What are your thoughts on that statement from Ryan?
Well, first off, the fact that if SGA were not on this Oklahoma City roster, all that does is just open up another slot for my boy Poku, who was wrongly cut from the active roster, to come back in the NBA and show the world what he can actually do. Jokic is 7 foot. Poku is 7 foot. Never seen them in the same room together. I'm just saying. Like,
He is Batman.
yeah. No, I do disagree with Ryan. I think that the roster after, like, if you were to remove the two best players, right, Jokic, SGA, if you take them both out, I think the roster left in Oklahoma City has a better chance to make the playoff than does the roster in Denver, solely from the fact that Chet Holmgren is still there and Jalen Williams is still there. And then Josh Giddey, if Josh Giddey was able to have the ball in his hands more than he does currently with SGA there, I think that Josh Giddey has a chance to blossom into a wonderful offensive organizer, right? Because he is not the scorer that SGA is. He never will be, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he is SGA. I'm saying that he has he would have the opportunity and potentially the ability to become the organizer of that offense, right? They have defensive guys, right? They have guys that they can match up. Luke Dort, Jalen Williams again, like Josh Giddey, if he were to try at all, could be a passable defender potentially, right? And then Chet anchoring it in on the back end. I just think there's more talent left on the roster in Oklahoma City than there is in Denver. If you have Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon running dribble handoffs and high pick and rolls for 63 possessions a game, right? Like Michael Porter Jr., if you guys remember way back to last year, I said maybe my Boogie Cousins replacement. He might be freaking Boogie Cousins if you take Jokic away. He's going to shoot the ball every time down
Be
the court.
reckless.
Yeah, like anytime Jamal Murray does not shoot, Michael Porter Jr. is going to shoot. I don't know that you want that, as he's been very, very, very good, and he's getting better with Jokic. But if you take that away, I don't know how good he becomes, right? So I do disagree for those reasons.
Yeah, Ryan, any rebuttal before we get to some of the comments in the chat?
Yeah, I think it's crazy to think that a team's three best players all being 22, 23 and under as a playoff team is happened like 2 times ever in NBA history. So that would be a huge outlier.
That wasn't the debate. The debate was, would it be better than Denver's roster?
Yeah, and I think Denver would make the playoffs. I said they'd make the play-in. That's what I said. So I think it would be a huge outlier for a team that has 5 minutes of NBA experience to make the playoffs.
I think Denver's a 30-35 win team without Jokic. So I don't think they would make the play-in. But
I don't think it's that far off. Like, we're talking like the difference between a 10 and an 11 seed probably, or a 10 and a 12. Like, I don't think it's a huge difference. I just think it matters a lot more. Like, I'm not sure that Oklahoma City team would look organized without Shea. Like, I think there would be an actual offense in Denver, like, without him. Obviously, they're heavily built to work with him as Oklahoma City is built to work with Shea, right? But like Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Reggie Jackson, KCP, Christian Brown. Christian Brown's the only guy that's like young on that. Those are all vets, like legitimate role-playing vets. Who's Oklahoma City have? Lou Dort? Is that the list?
Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, Chet
I said vets.
Joe, like,
when do you become a vet? 2 years in? Like, they haven't even been in the playoffs.
It's arbitrary. Like, you can become a vet after 6 months in the NBA, right? Like, we talk about guys, and it happens all the time, especially in college, right? But we talk about it in the NBA, right? Like, Brandon Miller is so much better currently than he was the first day in the NBA, right? Progression is not like, it can happen overnight if the player has the talent for it. Like, you could be a vet after playing 65 NBA games. Like, obviously it's different in the playoffs. Maybe it's not, because you're the one who last week told me that playoff experience doesn't really matter that much. You think it's a weak talking point, which is fair. But like, if we're talking about a regular season program, is Mark Daigneault a better coach than Michael Malone? I don't know. He might be. Michael Malone has Nikola Jokic and Dagnall doesn't, you know? I think that the argument of this is a super young team, so they're not going to be very good, doesn't hold up to this is a team full of role players and we just took their best player away. Like, I think the
don't
talent.
think Denver's role players though.
You just said they're role players.
I said that they got a fringe all-star guy, Michael Porter Jr. It would probably be a fringe all-star at that point too because of the usage increase.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have 2 fringe all-stars. That's close to a playoff team.
Okay. Jalen fucking Williams is a fringe all-star and Chet Holmgren is a fringe all-star.
Maybe. We don't know that.
Maybe. What is
maybe
Michael Porter Jr. would be a fringe all-star. We don't know that either.
We have way more information on Michael Porter Jr. and we know Jamal Murray has been an all-star.
Yeah.
So we only have one confirmed guy who has played at an all-star level. He's on Denver.
I just think
I don't.
This is just me disagreeing with you. That's all that is.
I mean, that's fine. I don't hate the disagreement. I understand what I'm saying is a little unusual. I just find me an example where they're a team, best players are that age, and would be that competitive. It's very rare, extremely rare. The closest example might be the Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Oklahoma City team.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray has never been an all-star.
No, I thought he was. I thought he made it one all-star team. I thought he was.
He played in that the Rising Stars. He was on the all-rookie team, but he's never been an all-star.
Brandon Knight played in that game too.
Yeah, not a fringe all-star. I mean,
not a fringe NBA player anymore either.
I still think he's the third best player among that group of players, and I think it could be very likely that Jalen Williams would be an all-star caliber player without Shea. Like, I don't disagree with that. I'm as high on Jalen. I've been high on Jalen Williams since the beginning. I thought he was a lottery pick from the beginning when he came out. He's also like one of the older players there because he was at Santa Clara a little longer. So he would become the vet at that point. Like, I don't disagree with that. But I don't think you can have your best players barely be able to buy alcohol and be an effective NBA team. That's just my opinion on it. It bears out historically. I mean, there's almost how many examples are there like of a competitive team? Like, I think Denver would still be competitive. Not good, but they'd be competitive.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit because we got a couple questions from the chat. So they piggyback off each other. So anybody from the TWolves a candidate?
I think Ant has to be mentioned.
Ant, right?
Yeah,
especially without Cat, he's probably going to have an opportunity to kind of flourish. If they can stay afloat and still compete for a top 2 seed, maybe Ant.
For MVP, is that what we're talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rudy Gobert should probably be like a top 15 MVP guy, probably like outside of the top 10. Anthony Edwards probably right above that, I would say, somewhere in like the 10 range, just off the top of my head. But
sure,
yeah.
So my dad asks here, do we have anybody else other than these the few we've talked about? I think Bentley foreshadowed that for us. Let's hear who your dark horse is, bud.
Yes. So this is a player who is not going to win the MVP. I'm going to caveat this statement. He's not going to win the MVP. I don't think he is necessarily deserving of it, but I do think he's deserving of being in the conversation, similar to like Chet and Wemby for the Rookie of the Year. So, without further ado, I think Paolo Banchero deserves to be mentioned in the MVP race. Paolo Banchero is averaging 23, 7, and 5 with a steal a game and half a block a game on 36% from deep and 46% from the field. He's played and started every game this year. The Orlando Magic are 8-2 in their last 10 and currently in 4th in the East. I went back and looked at season standings, and I think you have to go all the way back to Russell Westbrook to find an MVP that won the MVP where their team was below the 3rd seed in their conference. So being outside the top 3 in your conference does detract from your MVP chances. But I think that Paolo Banchero in his second year in the NBA is showing, and Ryan and I kind of got into this discussion when we were in Texas the other day, like who's going to be the best player in the NBA in 3 years, right? Because somebody had said that in Vic's third year in the NBA, he'll be the best player, right? I said, well, that's kind of detracting from like SGA and Jason Tatum, and I threw in Paolo because obviously I'm fairly biased, right? But I'm trying to take my bias out of that with this argument, right? Like he's the most valuable player on that Orlando Magic team. If you take him off of that team, yeah, they have Franz Wagner, but we have waxed poetically about the woes of their backcourt here. They don't know who to play. They know Jalen Suggs is really good. They're trying to figure out the point guard situation. I still attest that Anthony Black should be playing more there, but regardless, that's a personal vendetta I have against Orlando. I think that Paolo Banchero deserves to be mentioned. He probably should be within like 5 to 8 voting range, in my opinion. I would love to know if you guys agree or disagree, but I think I've laid out some decent reasons here. They're a 4 seed. They're really hot right now. He's having a career season. I know it's just his second year, but like he is the most valuable player on that team. They're proving that they can compete in the East.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on Paolo?
Thanks for acknowledging your bias there. He's probably.
The jersey is hanging over.
It's strategically placed. All right.
I would probably have him in like the Kawhi Leonard kind of like tier, probably like around there, like Anthony Edwards, Kawhi Leonard, Sabonis. I think it could be in that argument. People forget about him. I think LeBron's kind of been in that this year, like around that thing. Probably between like 8 to 12 is probably where I would have him. I don't think he's in the Luka tier. He's not in the Jason Tatum tier. He's not in the Giannis. Obviously not SGA. So that's 5 guys. So I think Donovan Mitchell, when healthy, has been better this year. So then it's like, does he fit in the next group after that? Like I consider like Luka, Jason Tatum, and Giannis to kind of be the second tier, and then after that, he's probably in that third tier, which is probably like 15 dudes. Like this year, I think there's an argument to be made about a lot of people. I wouldn't be shocked if he got like 10th place in MVP voting, but it also wouldn't shock me if he's not even voted for, just because it's going to be kind of random. I think when it comes down to that point, I don't hate it. I think his numbers are good. I think he's been better defensively this year too, which has helped a lot. And I think there's an argument that if he played on a faster paced team, his numbers would be quite a bit better. He plays on a very slow pace. Orlando's pretty slow paced, methodical team. So, there's some arguments there, but, I can't see him being above like 8, probably. That's like the highest I would give. And I would not put him there, but that's like the highest I could see him going.
It's funny you mentioned Kawhi in terms of kind of lumping him in that group, and like you mentioned, right, that it could be as many as like 15 guys in that next tier that Kawhi would be in. Kawhi actually sits with the 6th best odds right now, so he was 1 away from being mentioned in the top 5 that I rattled off earlier. So current odds, he's number 6. Bentley said 5 to 8. If it's that area, if he's at the top of that group of 15 guys, he's probably right there. I love it. I love what I'm seeing from Paolo. I also, we talked a lot about, our season preview. I mentioned how high I was on Orlando. I picked them to kind of blow by their over/under number. It didn't look great mid-season. They scuffled a bit. I was honestly prepared to eat the crow on the Magic, but they've turned it around. 8 of their last 10. They're hot as fish grease right now, and it looks like they will get beyond that over number. Probably not as far as I thought they would, but they're on pace. They could win somewhere in the mid 40s and be a top 4 seed. I thought they would host a home series, so let's stay in the top 4. Come on, Orlando. But his shooting is really what I think has kind of changed his trajectory, right? He's shooting a much better percentage. He's actually 4 points better in terms of field goal 3-point percentage. And he's up about 2 points in field goal percentage as well. So efficiency numbers are getting better for him. And I always thought that was kind of his bugaboo when it came to being that next level offensive player in the NBA. So he's doing a much better job in terms of efficiency. And as Ryan mentioned, the effort on the defensive end, I think, is a difference maker for him, because he's a guy who's long, he's athletic. It was always just kind of about like, is he engaged on the defensive end? So, yeah, I don't disagree. I think somewhere in the 5 to 15 range is probably where he ends up. If he finishes in the top 10 in voting, like Ryan said, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't finish in the top 10. I think it's easy for voters to kind of lose sight of a team like Orlando right now because they're not a babyface team in the league, that sort of thing. So, yeah, for sure. Ryan, do you have a dark horse outside of one that you want to bring up?
Before he gets to his dark horse,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a question. It's a series of questions. So Ryan put him in the category of Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Edwards. He said he's not Luka. He's not Jason Tatum. Who else did you put in that category? Sabonis. Mike.
Poku.
Okay, well, he's not better than Poku. Relax, dude. Calm down. He's not nearly as tall, first off. Like, ridiculous. So my simple question to all of those guys, right, that you mentioned him in the same category as, is if you take those players off of those teams, are they worse than if you take Paolo Banchero off of Orlando? Basically, are the players around those MVP candidates that are in the third tier, do they have better players around them than does Paolo Banchero in Orlando? Because his next best player is Franz Wagner, who is very good. Do not get me wrong. He's an incredibly good basketball player. But he's not Paul George. He's not James Harden. He's not De'Aaron Fox. He's not Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year. He's not Cat. Like, all of the players that you listed as being in the same category or above or right around where Paolo Banchero is have better supporting cast than do Paolo Banchero. Not to mention Paolo is playing in his second year in the NBA. Like, I think that Paolo is on a trajectory and deserves to be mentioned with the best players in the NBA, especially going forward.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the conversation of the actual definition of MVP, right? And you and I have had this conversation. We assess it very differently than a lot of people do in most sports. And I'll give baseball a nod for one thing. They get MVP right more often than other sports do. Honestly, they treat it much more like the actual most valuable player, not just like the best or most, maybe it's his time deserving player on a team with the best record, right? We see the quarterback on the best record in the NFL every year for the last 10 years. I think baseball gets it right more often where they actually take into consideration the most important letter of MVP is the V, and they get it right more often than I think other sports do. But Ryan, any thoughts on kind of what Orlando would be without Paolo versus some of those other guys in that tier?
Yeah, I don't fundamentally disagree with what Bentley said, except for the fact that he's a second-year player. That doesn't matter in MVP. I know you're bringing it up to say he's an ascending player, which I agree with. As you know, I agree with. But obviously, you don't get extra points for being young, as I just clarified, and the other teams being too young to be good. Yeah. Is he the best in his age group? That's probably a good argument. Like, I think that is a different question. But I do think he's ascending. Would it shock me if he won an MVP at one point in his career? No. I think it's more likely he gets 0, but it would not shock me. I think he could very easily achieve that. I think he has some limitations, but I just from my categorization of being of the previous question, when those guys are so close to each other, like SGA and Jokic, right? I had to find something to separate them, and that's what I chose to use. And honestly, like, you could use anything, right? Because it's a kind of a nebulous thing. I think with Paolo, I agree that if you took him away, that team would get hurt the most. But I also think that those other players have been just as good, basically, right? And I don't think he has like obviously separated himself. So, but if I say, hey, he's the 8th best guy this year, that's not a slight on him. Sure. Like, if I say he's the 12th best guy, like, we're talking razor thin margins on at that level of play. So, don't hate it. I think it's bias, but he will admit to that, as he did. So
never. I would never.
You want to hear my dark horse?
Yes, I do.
All right, no bias. Alperen Şengün.
the MVP of Sunday, Monday, whatever day that was.
How bad we'd be without Alperen Şengün, right? Like, if
Oh
you
my
took
God.
Alperen Şengün, we probably wouldn't be a playoff team.
Yeah.
With Alperen Şengün, we probably won't be a playoff
Yeah,
team.
it's
But we're close.
Without him, you definitely wouldn't.
There you go.
I mean, who's the second best player? Fred VanVleet. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
rough. That's
Yeah, it's
rough.
tough right now.
Şengün's look good. 21, 9.5, 5, a steal, and almost a block this year. I'm just throwing it out there.
My fantasy team appreciates it.
So, but those are close to Sabonis numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
It's true.
All right, well let's shift gears a little bit out of awards talk, and let's get to a little bit of Splash or Trash midseason edition. Some news broke recently, some results broke recently. We're gonna talk a little bit of Splash or Trash. All right, so how this works, Splash means you agree, Trash means you disagree. Let us know why, one way or the other. A little bit of backstory on this. If you didn't know, if you're just tuning in and didn't know that Karl-Anthony Towns is likely done maybe for the season, potentially at least done for quite a while. Torn meniscus is the diagnosis. So the TWolves will be without him for an extended amount of time. So, Ryan, we'll start with you first. Splash or Trash? The TWolves will finish no higher than the 4 seed without Cat.
This one's tough because that's really their bottom, probably, is the 4 seed. So they would have to hit their exact bottom scenario, in my opinion, because they're 2.5 games up on 2.5 games up on the Clippers, and for 4th place. So it's really close. I think this is kind of a toss-up, in my opinion. I'm going to trash it. I think they'll stay above the Clippers by a small amount, but I think it's a good question because I think it could go either way. But I think the 2 most important players for Minnesota are still out there. So,
Bentley, what are your thoughts?
This is a tough one. They have 20 games left to cover 2.5 games. I think they have a lot of home games left. I believe, if I read that correctly earlier, because they've obviously played a lot of road games already. It's either that or it's obviously the opposite, right? If it's a lot of home games, I feel better about them staying in the top 4 in the West.
They have exactly 10 home and exactly 10 away left.
Okay. Maybe I was thinking of a different team then. I was reading earlier somebody has like a bunch of home games left because they played a ton of road games already. Okay, so 20 games to stay 2.5 games ahead of the Clippers. I'm just going to go with the gut because I don't have a strong lean one way or the other. I'm going to say they drop to the 5 seed.
So you have the Clippers getting by them.
Yeah.
And the Pels or the Suns?
Well, if they've dropped to the 5, then everybody just shifts down, right? No, that would still be 4. Excuse me. No, so then they stay in the 4. I don't think the Pels and the Suns pass them.
I'm sorry. I was misconstruing the question. No higher than the 4 seed. So you're going to splash this that they're going to be the 4 seed?
Yeah, I would imagine that they drop below the Clippers to the 4 seed.
That's on me. I misunderstood my own fucking writing.
You're good. You're good. Yes, I'm splashing that they finish in the 4.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with Ryan saying like that's their bottom because I don't think that the Pels or the Suns are going to get hot enough to pass them. But I do think they're going to finish in the 4 spot. I think they'll still host in the first round. But I think as well that the Clippers, who have cooled off a little bit from their really, really hot post James Harden trade woes. They were hot for a long time. They've kind of cooled off. I think they're going to play good enough basketball down the stretch. Maybe they'll play 500 with their remaining 21 games. A game or two above. And I just think the Timberwolves are going to struggle without Cat. Their schedule is hit or miss. They don't exactly have like a loaded schedule, but I think they're going to miss him and his ability to stretch the floor the way he can. So I think they're going to finish fourth. So I'm going to splash this with Bentley. But that does mean that they are going to hit their floor. I agree with Ryan that this is their floor for sure. All right. Onward to Boston decided that they didn't like the fact that they were beating Cleveland by 22 the other night. And my dad's Cavs stormed back and beat Boston by erasing said 22-point lead with about 9 minutes to go. So, Bentley, your way first. Splash or trash? Boston blowing a 22-point lead with 9 minutes to go against Cleveland means something in May.
Gary, you and I host a college football show on occasion. We often talk about what are called trap games in college football because, well, not as much anymore, but used to every single college football game mattered. We
will have plenty of debate on that next year on
Trash
Talk as well.
Yes. There also is a belief in college football that the good teams beat the teams they win games they're supposed to win, right? Doesn't necessarily matter how you do it, but you win the games you're supposed to win. When we had our Contenders and Pretenders show 2-3 weeks ago, whatever it was, I said that Boston was a contender, but I had some reservations because their best player is Jason Tatum, and I do not think that he has the so coveted Mamba mentality that he wants to have so badly. This is a perfect example of a trap game in an NBA season. Sunday, they went out and beat Golden State by 50. And then they come back in the next game and they blow a 22-point lead in the fourth quarter with 9 minutes to go against a very, very good Cleveland Cavaliers team. That's a game you're supposed to win. You're the best. You have the best record in the NBA. You're playing what is a good team. However, you're beating them by 22 with 9 minutes to go. You shouldn't lose that, right? This is a team that came out and was on fire from their huge win. And they said, we're just going to cruise to this victory because we have, 22 points. We're good. And then all of a sudden, here comes Cleveland. So I am worried that this game does mean something in the month of May because it shows me that they are fallible. This is a team that does not close games in ways that they should. They're not beating teams that they should in May. And I fear that will carry over with them into the playoffs.
Ryan? Splash or trash?
It means nothing. They're by far the best team in the NBA. Pretty much every metric shows that. Losing to the third best team in the conference when you're ahead by 22 points, it happens. Sucks, but it happens. Everybody goes cold, has bad times. It happens. I'm not worried about it at all. And I think there's nothing to talk about with Boston. So this is like the thing to talk about. It's like, finally they did something we can say something about besides winning. I mean, I just think, I think this will be forgotten in about 30 seconds after this. So that's all I got to say. I don't think it means anything.
Yeah. So talk about swings, right? I'm with you. I'm a little indifferent on this. I think I splashed this a bit because of the point that Bentley made. Like the killer instinct, I think is still an issue for this Boston team. But an arbitrary loss like this, I don't know if there's a whole lot of value in May. I just think that this showed us that Boston still lacks a little bit of that kind of step on your throat. And Jason Tatum is not quite Black Mamba. He's not Kobe, right? He's not that guy, right? But I lost my point. I had another point I was going to make. Damn it. I got so sidetracked with trying to make a joke about Kobe that I kind of lost it. We'll come back to it. We will come back. Oh, the swings. I'm sorry. I lost my mind there for a moment. But yeah, so like Boston had won 7 quarters by 70 points and then lost this game after being up 22. Golden State set a record for biggest swing when they came back. They won their next game by 35 after losing by 52, a swing of almost 90 points. It's just that I thought was just kind of funny with the in game, in between game swings there. All right, onward and upward after my choppy fucking losing my own point. Next splash of trash. Ryan, will go your way first. The Bucks are back. So a little backstory on this. The Bucks struggled in the immediate aftermath of firing their coach and replacing him with Doc Rivers, who is supposedly the superstar whisperer, can handle personalities. They were like 0-5 going into the All-Star break. They come out of the All-Star break. They win 6 in a row. They lost last night in that game to the Warriors. They lost pretty bad to the Warriors, actually. But prior to that, they'd won 6 in a row. So, Ryan, splash of trash. The Bucks are back.
As I predicted, they're back. I said it was a great coaching hire. Y'all were not feeling it. The defense looks a lot better. I mean, I'm just correct. I don't know what else there is to say there.
You've been so wrong all night. It's crazy.
I told you Doc was going to get it done. That's a guy with experience. He's got a lot of experience losing games. He's got a lot of experience winning games, roughly equally. I think he's a great veteran coach, right? I said that from the beginning. I thought he would be good coaching a bunch of vets. And also I find the narrative. It's like, wow, he really fixed the defense. They play drop coverage now, and I'm not like, you had to hire someone to like do that. That's my only comment. Is that's kind of weird. Like, why didn't they just like hire a defensive assistant to do that? I don't really know, but. Yeah, I think they're fine. Not a team I would want to play. I never want to play Giannis in the playoffs, right? Like, that's just a scary person. I still think they are clearly behind Boston, but I think just that slight improvement in the defense is going to make them a lot tougher to beat. So I think they're moving into clear number 2 for me in the East. Maybe Cleveland up there as well, but. I think we got a top 3. So
Bentley, splash of trash. The Bucks are back.
Come on now. Ryan's been wrong all night. I can't agree with him now. Like, it's crazy. So they in their last 7 games, they're 6-1, I believe. Right? Am I counting this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which includes a loss to the Warriors, who lost by 50. Yeah, by 35, who lost by 50 to the Celtics. They did beat the Clippers at home. That's cool. Good for you. Prior to that, they beat the Bulls, the Hornets, the Sixers without Embiid, and then they beat the Timberwolves. And then they lost to Memphis, and they got blown out by Miami, right? So, I mean, are they back? Like, sure, they went on a little streak. Like, that's fine. But they played, like I said, they played Charlotte twice. They played Chicago. Like, I could play defense against whoever is starting at point guard for Charlotte. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea because LaMelo is not playing. Like, is Dame still going to have to play defense down the stretch of the regular season and in the playoffs? Is Doc still the coach? Like, I'm not worried about them. I'm willing to be proven wrong. Sure, absolutely, Doc. Go out and prove me wrong, bud. That'd be super cool. But I'm not worried about it, dude. Trash, man. They're not back. They traded away all of their best players except for Giannis. Like, get out of here, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm trashing this. In that 6-game win streak, you mentioned the teams that they played. Pop quiz. How many top 10 offenses did they play? Because everybody was talking about the defense has turned a corner, the defense has turned a corner, and the defense has turned a corner. They played almost one because they played the team that's tied for 10th in terms of offensive rating, and that's the Clippers, right? They blew a lead against the Clippers or the Clippers blew a lead in said game. Of the remaining teams in terms of offensive efficiency, they played number 19. They played number 29 twice. They played number 25. And who was the other one they played there? Philly is number 13. So pretty bad offenses, right? So I said the word in our chat earlier when I kind of suggested this topic. I'm trashing this because that 6-game win streak was very hollow. That doesn't tell me anything about who the Bucks are. It doesn't tell me anything about who Doc Rivers is. We'll see when the playoffs come or whatever if Doc's going to be able to fix it. But I buy more of what I saw before playing the bottom of the NBA's offenses in terms of defense. This team can't play defense. And the Warriors reminded us that they can't play defense. And unless they score 125 or 130 points, they're not going to beat many NBA teams. So I'm trashing this. The Bucks are still going to have to score 125, 130 points to win games, and that's just what it is. They're not back in terms of defense. Yeah, Jason Tatum is the green Mamba, right?
Honestly.
That's true. I'm not afraid of bears, but I would not beat Giannis in a fight. Confirmed. I will say that. But I'll fuck a bear up.
Is that because you respect him so much because he's Greek, or?
Yeah, he's clearly a better stock than me. So.
Ryan,
any rebuttal on this? I'll give you an opportunity. I know Bentley and I went a little hard on the Bucks here, but
yeah, I mean, I think Doc Rivers is a better coach than y'all do. That has been established. I said this before. I think the problem that people have is they are so obsessed with winning a championship that they can't grade someone correctly if they haven't won a bunch of championships. If we all fall victim to this, right? It's like, that Dr. J guy wasn't very good because he only won one NBA championship. It's like Dr. J is one of the 12 best players of all time, right? But he gets dropped off because he only won one NBA championship, right? Same idea with coaches. Happens all the time. There's a lot of great coaches that don't win any championships. A lot of great coaches win 1, 2. It's really hard to win a championship. I think Doc Rivers is a better coach. I'm not saying he's Dr. J of coaching, by the way. I just want to clarify that. But I do think he is underrated because of some silly things that have happened in his career.
Yeah, I mean, it helps you build that reputation for not being a very good coach when you've coached 20 Hall of Famers throughout your 24-year coaching career. You've nearly had as many Hall of Famers on your team as years you've coached. So maybe you should have won more than one title when you had 3 Hall of Famers and a fringe. Won't make the Hall of Fame because people don't like him, but maybe the most savvy point guard that we've seen in a long time. So I get the idea of Doc's won a lot of regular season games. He's done some things, but he's also been out coached on a regular basis when games matter. So, all right.
I just want to clarify who was available that was better than Doc Rivers. That's also the point that
the guy they had was fine. They were 20 games above 500.
They were awful defensively, though. I mean,
they're still awful defensively.
I think they're better defensively already. That doesn't shock me with Doc Rivers being the coach, but they were real. I mean, they were giving up 118 a game, I think, or something it was. Yeah. I mean, that's awful. And they got 3 guys who are known for defense in their starting lineup. Lopez, Giannis, and Middleton, all kind of known for the defense. Obviously, Middleton and Lopez having some age and injury issues, but that's not 118 points a game problem, in my opinion. So I think Doc has clearly improved the defense at least a little bit. I just want to throw that out there. There wasn't a lot of options, and the defense looks better. I think the offense is about the same, and it was already good to begin with. So.
Doc has a ring, dude.
He's not as good as Charles Barkley.
We do like the over. I heard a stat the other day, and it's still kind of playing out as well. I don't know what the number is quite today, but speaking of liking the over, since the All-Star break, as of I think it was Tuesday night, I heard this stat. The under was 61, 25, and 2 since the All-Star break. It was a crazy spread on hitting unders. Yeah, Lakers, we're back on, I think we're back on like milk carton watch for the Lakers, I think. Do either of you think that they can still get in the play-in? I think I want to know as well, do you agree? I think they would be dangerous if they can get into a play-in because they've got LeBron and AD, and in a one-game scenario, maybe they can still be dangerous. But do either of you think that they're going to get in?
To the play-in? Yeah.
You think they'll be in the play-in?
They're 5.5 games up on Utah, so
yeah,
to be out of the play, it's hard to lose 5.5 games with this many games. You have to almost like go like 18-3 or 3-18 to
that's fair.
Lose it. It's very difficult.
Are they going to make any noise in the play-in?
Who's their current matchup? Sacramento.
They're the 10 seed. Is going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, who guards De'Aaron Fox in that game or those games? Like, Sabonis. I like Sabonis a lot, but I understand the value of Anthony Davis on defense. Sabonis struggles with guys that are larger than him, and that's a lot of guys that play his position, unfortunately.
Yeah,
they're going to have to be one of Sacramento or Dallas, right?
Yeah, I misread the standings when I popped up the tab. I thought they were in 11th. I don't know why they're in 10th currently.
They should make the playoffs. Yeah, they should make the play-in.
They should make the play-in. I was over exaggerating a little bit there. I misread it. All right, moving on. Splash or trash. We're gonna save Ryan for last on this one. Splash or trash. Alperin. If you didn't know that his full name is Alperin Şengün, should be a household name. Bentley, splash or trash?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan's been wrong many times on this podcast, which, it was just kind of run of the mill for him. Not shocked. I just spent 3 days with him like nonstop, and by God, my brain hurt by the end of it.
He's never been smarter.
I've noticed he started drinking his drinks with his pinky out.
Yeah, right. I think that he and I, and maybe all three of us, are going to agree on this one. We might be the number one Alperin Şengün podcast on the airwaves these days because I think we all just love him. 20, 21, basically 10 and 5 assists with almost a steal and a half and almost a block a game. Like, the guy is electric offensively. He's one of those below the rim guys, right? He's not as big as Jokic. He's like Jokic's little brother almost, right? Both in age and stature. I gotta do Alfie Short King. Yes. The Short King, who is, what do they have him listed at, 6'9"? Oh, they have him listed at 6'11". I don't believe that for a second.
6'11" on camera.
No,
I can tell you that.
Not at all. I splash 100%. Alpi is one of the most he's one of the most crafty basketball players in the NBA, even though if you ask Ryan, he's not a veteran yet, so he has literally they basically just handed him a basketball this year for the first time ever in his life, and he just has figured out the NBA game at such a high level. It's truly astonishing stuff, and I understand why Ryan would put him as his dark horse for MVP.
I didn't say any of that.
I'm splashing this as well. My fantasy team applauds, especially his last 2 nights. He had 45, 16, and 3 dimes and 5 steals against the Spurs. He really bully balled Wemby in that game. And then 23, 19, and 14 as a follow-up, not eventually after, the very next night against the Clippers in unfortunately a losing effort. They were winning for quite a good portion of that game, but kind of fell apart at the end. But that doesn't change the fact that if you don't know Al Şengün, you should. So I'm going to splash this, and then I'm going to get out of the way, and I'm going to clear the runway, and I'm going to give the floor to Ryan. Talk to me about your boy.
I'll give a little history first because that's what's important here. Houston, the Rockets specifically, might be the second best franchise ever for centers. Uh, are probably the Lakers have had a better one. They've had Kareem, they've had Shaq, they've had Wilt. Those are some pretty good names. They've had Gasol at some point played center for them a little bit. Like they've had some guys, right? The Rockets have had Moses Malone, Ralph Sampson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Yao Ming, right? Some big names there too, right? Alperen Sengun is the best of them all. Not because of his play, but because he makes me happy. And that's really what's important. And when I put out my greatest players of all time list this year, he will be number one. And if he doesn't win 14 MVPs by the time his career's over, it will be a travesty and an indictment on the voting community. So no, before I'll start, I'll get out of my hyperbole. He's been great all year. The team goes how he goes. And they've been like okay this year. They're 27-35, which I think is a little better than people thought they were going to be. I think even a little better than I thought they might be. And they've had a lot of injury issues. They've had to play a lot of young guys. And he's been kind of him and Van Vliet have been the steadying force. Dylan Brooks has been okay, but if he ends his career with these numbers, like this is what he is, like his peak, he's still, a top 50 guy. And I think should potentially could be a second best player on a championship team at some point. So that's, I think, pretty high praise and should be someone more people talk about. He's big in the card community. I will say that. People love him in the card community. I don't know why. They hate centers normally, but they love him. I think it's because of the passing. He does a lot of like behind the back passes and no look stuff. I think people like that about him. But the card community loves him. I'm not sure the basketball community loves him as much, but
we love him here on this podcast.
Yes. Ryan, you mentioned, was it Sampson, Malone, Olajuwon, and Ming as the greatest centers to play in Houston, right? Without being hyperbolic,
behind
right? Well, yeah, obviously. But actual question, as a Houstonian and a historian, both yourself, do you think that Sengun has the chance to be the best offensive center to play in Houston? Because most of those guys, aside from maybe Ralph Sampson, and Yao Ming to a certain extent, right? But like, does he have a chance to be the best offensive center to play in Houston?
He probably will never pass Olajuwon. That's just really tough, right? With what he could do, he'll probably be the best passer of that group. Already, he might already be the best passer of that group.
Yeah.
I mean, Yao Ming was like a 20 point per game scorer on like one of the slowest eras of all time, and Yao might put up like 27 a game right now. If he didn't have to run up and down the floor. And Moses, though it was not flashy, was a great offensive player. It was all around the basket, but he, rebound, put it back up. Those are all different skill sets, so it's like hard to compare to someone like Sengun because it's so different. He's probably closest to Olajuwon, like offensively, like the way he plays. Less of the dream shake and more of like the shake and spin around people. But yeah, it's going to be tough to pass it. Any of those guys, yeah. Maybe Ralph Sampson because his career got shortened, but Ralph in his peak was just as good probably. So that's tough. I mean, all those guys you're talking top 5 centers, top 7 centers. Like not Ralph and not Yao, but those other 2 guys would be tough. Ralph probably be the only approachable guy from a career perspective, in my opinion. And Yao, because of years, like in totality, he might pass him. But passing, he's already better, in my opinion, than most of those guys. Olajuwon was a good passer, but not as good as Sengun, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Well, let's finish on a topic we've already sort of broached, but we're going to look at it from a little bit different perspective. So, splash or trash, and I'm going to save the historian for last again. Sorry, Ryan, you're going last place in a row. I'm going to save the historian for last. Bentley, your way first. Splash or trash. Wemby is having the best rookie season ever. And if you trash this, I've got to know who you've got better.
Yeah. So the default answer is trash, right? Because 99% of the time, if you say something is the best ever, you're incorrect, right? I'm going to splash it for personal reasons. I guess I don't. It's the best rookie season that I can remember a player having, right? He has come in and just instantly taken over the defensive end of the NBA court, which is something that is rarely seen, right? We oftentimes see players come in and be able to score like at will, right? Like Jason Tatum came in at Boston and was almost a 20-point per game guy, like right away. Like he may have been. I don't have the numbers on that. Don't quote me. But like he had a phenomenal rookie season, right? LeBron James, obviously phenomenal rookie season. Melo, one of the best rookie seasons we ever saw, right? A lot of people, for their money, say that's the best rookie season from an offensive standpoint, right? Wemby has proven over and over again that he has every aspect of the game at a serviceable, if not an elite level, already in his bag to play in the NBA, compete with guys, veterans, if you will, for, a callback there. Don't shake your head at me, Ryan. So for my money, for my remembrance sake, it's the best rookie season that I can think of. From a player who has stepped in and has been at least serviceable in every aspect of the NBA game and has proven that he has elite skills already defensively, if not offensively as well.
Yeah, I mean I'm gonna trash this for a couple of reasons. One, I did a lot of research and kind of preparation for this to understand like before my memory, right? You mentioned it, Bentley. Like in my memory, the best rookie season, yada yada. I'm a little biased, I'll admit, but I still think that Carmelo Anthony's rookie season, where he took a team from drafting third overall to the playoffs, is a huge deal. That can't be undersold. And I think it's criminal that he didn't win Rookie of the Year that year. But I've been very clear of like I understand that LeBron James won Rookie of the Year while Carmelo was playing at Syracuse, winning a national championship. So that was a done deal. Whatever, right? But that's my favorite rookie season as well because of what he was able to do, taking that team to the playoffs, etc. Wasn't a very good team beyond him. It was kind of a aging. They had a couple of good supporting cast players, but Melo was clearly the straw that stirred the drink there as a rookie for a team to make the playoffs. Historically speaking, I did find a couple of rookie seasons, and sorry, Ryan, if I steal your thunder on either of these, if it's going to be your argument, but I found very interesting rookie seasons that one supports my theory that Carmelo is the best in my memory, and one is like statistically speaking was pretty gaudy and unbelievable. And I'm not going to talk about Wilt because I've made my feelings about Wilt in his period that he played in very overt. But I'm going to start with Alvin Hayes, 28-17 as a rookie. And I know it was like 68, 69, a little bit different time, but as a rookie to come in and score 28 points and average 17 on a team that, for obvious reasons, took him number one overall, right? That's a pretty impressive rookie season, in my opinion. That's just an unbelievable number to put up. But Elgin Baylor, I want to talk about the fact that like the Lakers were kind of hurting and they took him early. He took them to the fucking finals, and he was really the start of kind of the era of Lakers Celtics, where they were the two teams that were the biggest rivalry for that long stretch in NBA history. Without Elgin Baylor, I don't know that ever really starts, for one, and two, to be the guy. And I'm gonna grab his stats real quick here because I want to just double down on it, because he averaged 25, 15, and he averaged 4 assists a game, and he took that team to the finals. In my opinion, over the course of history, that right there is probably the one that I would put at the pinnacle. A guy to take his team to the finals after being a very high draft pick, and we know what comes with being a very high draft pick. That team was not very good the year before. On a legendary team, right? The Lakers, and then playing against the legendary Celtics team of that era in the finals. I tip my cap to Elgin Baylor. I knew he was really, really good at the beginning of his career. I did not, until I started researching for this, I did not realize he was that goddamn good as a rookie. So I'm putting that one at the very top of the stack for me in terms of rookie seasons from a historical perspective. Ryan, the floor is yours, homie. Slash or trash, Wemby's having the best rookie season ever.
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks for bringing up Elgin Baylor. The Lakers don't exist without Elgin Baylor. That was a floundering franchise in Minneapolis. Elgin Baylor and Jerry West, who came into the league 2 years later, likely
saved them.
Yeah, they don't exist without them. It was a fledgling franchise and a fledgling NBA at that point. He also almost died in a plane crash the next year, and that also would have killed the Lakers because the entire team was on the plane. Interesting history there. They did crash, but they survived it. Yeah, I'm going to say Wemby's had the best rookie year since William Melchione, who was the first rookie of the year in 1953. No, clearly he has not been that good. My choice, if I was going to go back, I'm going to trash it. And I kind of agree with like Tim Duncan, I think is kind of where I think that's like for sure Tim Duncan, right? I think Carmelo is a good choice. I think LeBron is a fine choice. I think even like Elton Brand had a really good rookie year. He was a 20-11 guy's rookie year. Tim Duncan obviously came in both sides of the floor, very similar. Tim Duncan made a huge improvement in his team. Wemby hasn't had as big of an improvement, so I think I give the upper hand to Wemby to Tim because of that. Obviously, they became a championship like team 2 years later. He changed that team so quickly. I will highlight some other ones. Obviously, Wilt had a huge rookie year. I also want to say Elvin Hayes had that rookie year, did not win rookie of the year that year.
Yeah.
Which
I saw that. Like what?
He led the league in scoring his rookie year, did not win rookie of the year. Wes Unseld won rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And also MVP.
Yeah.
Wes Unseld was rookie of the year and MVP. And I think he had the same amount of rebounds, 10 less points per game. We looked this up, and I think had like half a block more. And everyone was like, yeah, but they won a lot of games. And
they finished first, but
yeah, I mean,
he scored 28 and 17.
Yeah, based off like everything we know about like rookie of the year and MVP, it doesn't make any sense that Elvin lost. West may have been a more valuable player that year. That's probably true defensively and like rebounding. I just want to highlight that. Some other guys, Oscar Robertson, obviously, Jerry Lucas had a big one. Terry the Dentist Dishinger had a really good rookie of the year. The reason he's called the dentist is
also
because
all nickname team.
He became a dentist after he retired. Like he went to dental school and became a dentist. He did not get that nickname while he was in. But yeah, I think Wemby's having a great year, affecting both sides of the floor, which is why I compare him to Tim Duncan. I think LeBron and Carmelo had not yet got to that point where they affected the game defensively. I'm not sure Carmelo ever got to that point. Like Wemby's a better defender now than Carmelo ever was. LeBron eventually got there, right? But I think Tim Duncan is probably the closest example. Maybe it's a cop-out because he also played with the Spurs, and people think I'm just doing that. But I think that's probably the closest example, and that was 1997. That was a long time ago, or 1998. He was drafted in 97, but very, very long time ago. So it's super impressive to me.
Yeah, we're getting old. Tim Duncan, his rookie year was almost 30 years ago. Oof. Yeah, you mentioned Oscar Robertson, like the triple-double king. He essentially averaged a triple-double as a rookie. I think it was 30, 32, 15, and 9.7 or something along those lines. I was looking at it earlier. He had 30 and a half, 10, and basically 10, 9.7 assists. So started right out the gates with the old triple-double threat. So, all right. Well, cool. That brings us.
Who was your answer for best rookie season, Ryan? You listed 83 guys.
All time best rookie season?
Well, yeah, that was the caveat. Is if you trash
Oh,
Whitney having the best season.
I just took the next guy who I thought was better, like the next season, the most recent season. I said Tim Duncan.
Oh,
Best all time, I think, is Wilt. I think Wilt's numbers are crazy as rookie year. I know how you feel about Gary, but if it was easy, everyone would do it. That's what I'll say.
that's fair.
Because I'm pretty sure there were a lot.
Not everybody
of
was
people who wish
7-2
could...
playing against plumbers, I guess. But
yeah, Bill Russell, famous plumber.
Yeah, Bill Russell, one of 340 that Wilt played against that year.
Yeah, Nate Thurmond, just a lot of plumbers that he played.
Yeah, Thurman defended Wilt often, I bet.
I think he was out checking my AC the other day. Actually,
I think he was.
Yeah,
they were teammates at one point, actually.
Yeah. Either way, 37 and 27 is what it is. But Wilt's not averaging fucking 50 points a game now, as Wilt would have you believe.
No, he's averaging 70.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he would take every shot if he was 19 years old.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the story? It happened this year. Anthony Edwards apparently got the girl pregnant, and then there was the whole take the pill, and she was texting him, and all he would respond with was send a video. Send a video. Anytime I see Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game, I'm just like, send a video. Send a video.
There's living people who were there. You can ask them; they were there.
There are living people who believe the world is flat.
I'm just saying, dude.
That's different than actually being at. Tom Meschery was in the game. He played in the game in the 100-point game. He is alive. He writes a blog you can read. He talks about those games.
Send the video.
Yeah, that was a common occurrence in the NBA in the 60s was video.
It exists somewhere.
It doesn't. It was not filmed. The game was not filmed.
Yeah, they mysteriously played in a off the beaten path venue in a game that had a lot of controversy surrounding it, and Wilt ends up with a picture with the number 100 on it after the game.
Does it shock you though? He scored 70 so many times. It's not that crazy that if he just shoots well one night from the free throw line, that he gets close to 100. It's not that crazy. The amount of times
it's crazy to think that Wilt Chamberlain shot well from the free throw line. Yes,
because he shot 50% and less most of his career. But just one night of shooting 75%, and you're adding
lightning in a bottle.
You're adding 15 points as much as they would get. He would get fouled like crazy because he couldn't shoot.
Yeah.
But imagine Shaq hitting 80% one night. It's he added 10 points to his total.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying send the video.
Send the video.
That's all I'm saying. We get videos from everyday occurrences prior to that, like cars driving down the street in Chicago.
Imagine how people who were there must feel having to defend it too. Come on, I was fucking there.
You act like the first cars driving was an everyday occurrence. It was a massive technological achievement. Of course, they filmed it. If you were alive when cars first came, you'd be like, "Oh my god, these things are crazy." Of course, you would film it. Basketball had existed for 70 years by the time he did it. They didn't need to film it. They knew how it worked. I'm just throwing it out there.
Just throwing it out.
as you like to say.
Just saying.
Look, it's the Drewski meme.
Just pulling it in.
Send the video.
All right, boys. Well, hey, I appreciate it. Good episode. Appreciate all the comments, all the engagement from the chat. Let's get some closing thoughts here. Ryan, your way first.
I've said so much today. I don't really feel like saying anything else at this point. I've never been more disrespected in my life.
Bentley has gone in pretty hard on you.
Yeah.
No.
Any closing thoughts or apologies for Ryan?
Apologies. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. No, what I will say is that next week is maybe my favorite week in the entire calendar year. I love college football. I love bowl season. I love conference championship weekend in college football. We'll see how the playoff turns out. That's for you and I to talk about, Gary. Next week is conference tournament week in college basketball. It is my single favorite week of the basketball season, even more so this. I know this is an NBA show, even more so the NBA playoffs. I love conference championship week. Probably because I see my team winning a lot, but regardless, it's awesome to watch all the other conferences and all the other teams play. College basketball is just the best because literally anything could happen. March is phenomenal. Like, this is March, baby. Like,
that's the thing I try to convey to like the casual fan who's like, oh man, like the tournament's coming, March Madness is about to start. I'm like, nay. March Madness starts about a week and a half before we even find out who's going to the tournament. March Madness is the fucking real deal when you've got buzzer beaters in the Horizon League. That's when March Madness starts. So yeah, absolutely. It's a great week. We're gonna see fucking Southeast Louisiana State, the 5 seed in the SWAC come out and win the conference and punch their ticket, and then hope that they can be the next UMBC. But yeah, for sure. March next week. It's a big week. We don't have football to make a pick here, but we've got a suggestion in the chat.
Oh my God.
So it was recently announced that Jake Paul's next dive victim is apparently Mike Tyson. So Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, hot takes. Anybody think this isn't scripted? There's apparently fighting in Arlington,
Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I believe so. It's going to be, I think it might even be at fucking Jerry World, but saw the announcement today, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Anybody think Tyson's going to fight him for real?
I'd be shocked if Tyson even gets in the ring.
I hope he beats his ass.
I wish he would.
Not only do I think Tyson will win, I would win against Jake Paul. See if Jake Paul would fight a bear or an orangutan.
Or Giannis.
I will not fight Giannis.
It's the same. It's the same as the orangutan, dude. The long arms just got to get inside. A little dirty boxing.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah. Shoulder shots.
I agree logistically, but Giannis will know I'm fighting him. That's the problem. The orangutan won't know. He'll be like, "Oh, this is my friend," and then I get in close. It's game over.
I got you, Ryan. I got you. Here's how you beat Giannis in a fight. You only fight him at a free throw line.
At the free throw line.
You get about 20 seconds to strike a blow.
I thought you were going to say the 3-point line because he's not going to hit anything.
He did hit 8 in a row in warm-ups the other night.
That's honestly better than I can do.
And then they lost to Golden State, but you know.
Yeah. I'll never understand the whole 20 seconds at the free throw line either. Like, get out of your own head, bro. Just dribble twice and shoot.
Yeah.
I agree.
He sits there and thinks about it. Like, you're never gonna make it that way. All right. Well, hey, appreciate you guys. We'll see everybody same bat time, same bat channel next week. For Ryan, for Bentley, and the rest of the Backyard family, this has been Backyard Buckets, brought to you by Backyard Sports. We are